Hey guys. So I'm feeling a little tired. I'm going to be brutally honest here. So today was the day I was just chilling with my kids, and then 3 embalmings later, the plans changed for the day. So welcome to the world of being a funeral director. Wanted to give a shout out while I'm starting to a little girl named Rhea. Her mom is a funeral director, and she just had a cute video recently she posted about what her mom does for a living, and it was so sweet. You know, what do they say? From the mouth of babes, the just her perspective on what her mom does. It was super sweet. So Rhea, you are amazing and so adorable. I've also had some people ask for a Victor update, so wanted to read a little email I got from him. This is Victor Daniel, the guy from California who has brain cancer, and let me know if there's too much background noise. I tried to sit outside, and everybody seems to want to be driving by right now. Thank you. So here is our Victor Daniel update. Hi, Kari. I am doing fine now, but I was not feeling well last week. My body was weak and tired from my cancer. My doctor said the cancer is spreading all over my body. Thank you, Tamara. My doctor told me I might not live long and I might pass away at the end of this year. My biggest fear, or my biggest wish, is for you to embalm my body for my funeral service when my time comes. And you are the best person in the world, Kari. I hope you meet me soon on your embalming table when I pass away at a young age. So, yeah, Victor is plugging along, but declining, and it's just a slow and steady, unfortunately, decline for him. Um, Let me pull up so I can make sure to be looking at video or comments as they're coming through, and so I can make sure to answer new questions. I've got all the old questions. So today was kind of going to be about getting to know me a little bit more. So I had some people submitted some questions that were just general. Hey, what's your favorite this? What's your favorite that? What would you like to do? You know, where would you like to travel? Things like that. Like to go to Italy. We'll throw that out there. What was my first funeral experience? Okay, I'll get to that here in a minute. You know, favorite TV shows, Bones, and the TV show Numbers. Did you guys watch that? It was such a great TV show. I still will watch that on Amazon Prime. Steph, I am in Southwest Michigan near Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo area. And yes, I go to church in Kalamazoo area. It's a large community church. Oh, you're so welcome, Lara Beth. So, music, I listen to everything. Why do you not record embalming? My family would say if it's okay. Just there's too much legal. Anybody in the family could come back and sue you. Anybody. Somebody could sue you for watch the video and then sue you afterwards, claiming it was, too much mental anguish. Like it's just too big of a thing to do. So I'm going to be doing another embalming video coming up here, hopefully giving a little more information about embalming and as much as I can do for an embalming. So somebody asked me what got me interested in the business, and back in the day, I needed a job when I was 16, and so I started working at the funeral home. Fast forward a couple years, and was trying to decide where to go, and realized that I was so comfortable there, and so I gave it a whirl. And 1 or 2 families into what was my apprenticeship, I said, this is it. This is for me. I knew I can tell you the exact moment where I was, who I was helping, and then there was a few more families that same summer that kind of solidified what I wanted to do. And I can tell you just everything about those families. I think every first family you serve is so special to you because it's your first time doing doing certain things and going through certain emotions, and so they just set on your heart a little more than other families maybe down the road. But those first families are always so critical. My first funeral experience. So when I was 3, my grandpa died. And I do remember going to the funeral home for the visitation and standing there. I don't remember a ton about it, but enough. Um, Hardest embalming. Gosh, you guys are asking lots of good questions. So that was my first funeral experience. I had more when I was younger, but I think it's the ones when I had when I was in my mid-teens that were probably helped me more. Mortuary programs to avoid, I don't know of any. I'm a strong advocate for learning in school just because being around a group of like-minded people is so important. And I think it's to be around and be encouraged and befriend and make those connections in a class full time with other students, I think is really important. It's not that you can't learn, doing an online program, but I say just do it. If you're going to jump in, just do it. Go to school, pack up your bags, pack up, and just go and do it if you can. So it's not for everybody. Have I embalmed at night? Hundreds of times. So, yes, angry penguins did not hold me hostage. How did I handle the first embalming I watched? I remember it very clearly, and the trocar, I didn't know anything about aspirating, and so that first embalming, I was like, whoa, what are we doing with that trocar, and where is that going? And so that part of it startled me. Otherwise, it was very fascinating. I really was interested in the what we were doing and why we were doing it. And so to me, it was curiosity and getting to learn more about this thing that fascinated me so much. So how do I have a work and personal life balance? So I am married, and I think that is important to have a team, whether it's your spouse, whether it's a close group of friends, whether it's your parents, your brother's sister, somebody, is to have a support system around you that can support you through the hard days at work. But also, if you have kids, then they can help you. Like today, I got called in that I didn't know that I was going to go in today, but I had to. And so I have great babysitters that I can call and turn to. And I have a lot of great people I can rely upon. And I have a husband who can jump in when I need some support and some backup. And I do the same for him with his business and his work. He is not in this business, but I think when you're married to a funeral director, you are in the business, sort of, because both of your lives are disrupted if you get a death call. And yes, my kids know what I do, and if I go to work, they say, Mom, who died? And they'll pray for them sometimes, and they wonder if we drive by a cemetery, hey, is that where you work? Or they know that that's what I do. I don't think they get the full realm and the full aspect of it, but they know and know that somebody has died, and so Mommy has to work. So how do you have a work-personal life balance? So this has nothing to do, I believe, with the career. It all has to do with your employer. If you are working for the right person, then you will have the balance. If you're working for a place that has a one specific view on, kind of how you should be working, then, if they want you to work every evening and they want you on call all the time, or they want you to go out on night free removal, then you're not going to get the balance that you need. But if they have the funeral directors and all this other staff supporting that is going to work the visitations and work everything, then you can have that balance. So it's having the right employer for you. And it may take working for 1 or 2 funeral homes to find that. It's not that it's a bad funeral home. It's just that it's not the right funeral home for you, maybe. My accent, I don't know that I have an accent. I'm nasally. I do know that I'm nasally, but I don't know that I have an accent. I think that's interesting when people say that. So what words am I saying that are kind of funny, I guess? What is my typical day like? So because I'm a freelance funeral director, so I do trade embalming. I go into lots of funeral homes and do embalmings. I go and cover funerals and visitations and arrangements, or uh, I go in, cover the office for a day for people, or do vacation coverage. So when they go on vacation, so I don't really have a typical day. One day a week my kids are with me. I try and do time slot where I work on video stuff, or I go and I'll do a tour, or I go and connect with people, or I do some of my customer experience coaching that I do with funeral homes, or I try and respond to every comment that people leave on my YouTube, and I try to respond to every email that people send me. That takes a lot of time. So I try and do all that just because I really strongly believe in educating about this business and helping people broaden their view on the business. And sitting on the makeup portion. Oh, Daniel, good question. I think that's a big one for funeral directors. So someone said, have I ever worked a canine funeral? No, I have not, and I think I wouldn't be able to handle it. Like, I would be an emotional wreck. Like, animals, I was always one of those, like, anybody can die in a movie, but one animal dies and I'm done. Like, I'm just a wreck. So I feel like I would not be able to hold my crap together to do a canine funeral, but how awesome of a thing that they do such honor and solemnness for that life and for their service. And so I think they're cool. So what would I want to do? I thought of this earlier because I knew somebody was going to ask this question. As of right this moment, I would be buried. I would be embalmed, even though that kind of changes. Sometimes when I'm embalming, I'm like, why? Why do people do this? I just wonder. Nope, that's my neighbor's house behind me, Paul. But I feel like if I was buried, to know that I was for sure dead, I would want to be embalmed. I don't know. I think I have the same fears as anybody else. Like, I want to make sure I'm really dead if I'm going to be buried, or I don't really want to be cremated because I don't know. And I don't like thinking about the whole death thing, period. It's just, I'm not comfortable with it. None of the options are the best options. Yes, you can shadow people. You just need to find someone that will allow you to do it. So just go knocking on doors and ask and see if somebody will let you. So one thing I want to say about this profession, and someone has asked some questions about going to school and being interested. So just because you're interested in the profession doesn't mean you have to run off and get your mortuary science license. There are so many areas within the business you can work without going to mortuary school, without getting your license. And so you need to look into all these other aspects. You can work in graphics, you can work in pre-need, you can work just making arrangements. Some states allow that you don't have to be a funeral director to make arrangements. You can run the funeral without having your license, as long as there's a licensed person for certain parts during the service. You can, work for cemeteries, you can work for crematories, you can do the cosmetics, you can get people dressed and in their caskets, you can do aftercare with families, you can do the social events like lunch and learns where, people can come learn about the funeral home and things. So there's all these other aspects within a funeral home you can work in without having your license. So explore those as well if you're not set and committed on one, working with bodies, or wanting to get your license, or some of those things. Like, there's so many other areas. So let's see, what does my hubby think of my job? People were asking that. I think he thinks it's great for what it is. It's it's what I do. It's what I love. It's who I am. We met, at the point where was already in the business, and it was part of who I was. So if he wanted to date me, he kind of had to date the business, and he's learned all about it, and he loves business, and he loves kind of the inner workings of business. And I don't love that aspect of the job. So he likes to learn about that part. I like to learn about the people and the embalming and things like that. And so we both, we go to conferences or go and we can both talk from both sides of the business, I guess. So, what do I hate about the job? In the long run, what are things I hate? Working visitations in terms of just standing on your feet for long periods of time. It just gets old, just my feet hurt. I like talking to people. I like the social part of it, but oh, your feet hurt. Late night calls or getting up at 2 and then you're up for the whole day, things like that. Working with families that are just emotionally heavy and hard is hard. Have I ever thought about throwing in the towel? Yes. I would be silly if I didn't say yes. You work with some families that just kind of destroy your heart for a couple days and you think, why am I doing this? I should do something that makes me happy. I think the part of it that makes me want to throw in the towel is I get anxiety about all the insane ways you could die, that we see people die, and so we understand that it can happen to anybody, anytime, anywhere. A guy, it started raining, he ran out to shut the shed on his door or something, or shut the door on his shed, and he runs out into his yard, slips on wet grass, and breaks his neck. You can't foresee these moments, you can't foresee these things happening, that we're all susceptible to death at every moment. Hey, Donald. And so, when you start thinking about that, because you're around death all the time, you get a little, you're a little more anxious and you're a little more nervous for your family and for your loved ones, and always kind of on the lookout. I feel like I live on defense all the time, kind of making sure things are safe and trying to watch out for things. Because of that, I feel like some days I just want to step away from the business and not be around the death and not be around just thinking about it all the time. So that would be when I would throw in the towel. Have you ever thought of writing a book? I feel like I would have to have some new ideas or some new thoughts about the business, not just writing about my encounters, because people have done that, and so I would need something new. So, is it hard to deal with very obese bodies? It is hard in the aspect that it takes just more creativity sometimes in terms of just moving that person, and in some of the situations you get put in with that. I have a video on obesity, and then Little Miss Funeral and I talked about obese, working with people who are obese, and it's a really touchy subject, and I get a lot of really bad backlash on it. But when you're standing working on somebody who's 400, 500, 600 pounds even, it does take a lot more work. Just like there's thin bodies that take a lot more work even, but you have to have difficult conversations with families that they need a casket that's larger, and conversations about needing extra pallbearers, or maybe the casket won't even fit in the hearse and you have to use a special vehicle. And so it's these conversations that they're hard, and the family doesn't want to have them, you don't want to have them. It's just hard sometimes, but every family has a challenge, and so it's not just obese bodies that are add an additional anything. So let's see, how does funeral experience for others? Some folks were asking for a video on suicide deaths, so I'm going to work on that as well. I'm trying to read all your comments as they're coming in. UK funerals, what do I think of it? So, UK funerals, I've connected with a funeral home over in England and am looking at dates and planning a trip over so I can wear a top hat and hopefully lead a funeral. I'm kind of excited about this. So my husband's sitting over here, and yeah, he said, go ahead and book the trip if you really want to. So I'm kind of excited because I really want to see firsthand some of those things, like the using of the coffin. And it's 80% cremation in a lot of areas because they're running out of space because it's an island. And so just the creativity that they've had to do over there, and the ceremony behind everything, it's awesome. I'm really excited to get to go see it firsthand. So, video from the deceased viewpoint. You've actually read my mind on that comment because of one of my videos coming up that I'm working on. So, theory on the tri-state funeral home. I'm guessing you mean the tri-state crematory in Georgia that happens about, was that like 15 years ago or so, with the bodies all in the back, where they threw the bodies out in kind of the woods and stuff instead of cremating them. I'm not sure what you mean theory on it. This is actually happening a little more frequently, where we're finding funeral homes that have not cared for the people properly because they didn't have the funds to, because they were misappropriated. And it's just, I think, like any business, any industry, any career type thing, there's people who go down the wrong path, and once they go once or twice, it's easy to just go full bore down that wrong path. Have you ever worked for a company who dealt with donated organs or tissues? No, I have not. I have been in a lot of talks recently with Gift of Life and learning more about what they do and the process and how they operate. And I have a video on that coming up, because I was very interested in what they do and how they procure tissue and organs and how that all works. And because when a funeral director gets somebody that's donated, the body, it takes more effort, and it takes more skill, and it takes just some extra everything to take care of that body. And so sometimes it's frustrating for us as funeral directors, but we have to look at the fact that this person gave a gift, people are being saved, lives are being saved. So what is an extra hour or two of our time when a life is being saved? So it's getting new perspective and trying to help other funeral directors understand that as well, and not get stuck on just the time part of it. What do you say to people if they have an unexpected loss and they're not financially prepared? Life insurance, get ahead of it. I can't say that enough. At funeral homes, most all of them require a payment up front now. So you have to go take out a loan, you have to get credit cards and figure out how to pay for things. But I think the biggest thing is to step back and see how much money you really truly can put forth towards the situation, and then look at the options based around that. It's not that funeral homes are being cruel by saying, hey, it's going to cost us much if you want to do the full thing. It's that a funeral home is a business, and if they start giving a deal for this person or a deal for that person, then everybody's going to get the deal, and then the funeral home's going to go out of business because they haven't made their money that they need to. So it's kind of a catch-22, with a funeral home. So they look evil because they're charging money, but they have to charge money to be in business. So it's kind of like, well, what do you want? Thank you, David. That's so sweet. I've missed a bunch of questions, I feel like, going through here. So I just saw a comment about a Chihuahua, and I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't have a Chihuahua, so I'm not sure. How does Reconstruction work? How do you learn? It is really a trial and error and hands-on. So the more you work with like the wax and the cosmetics, the better you become. There are classes and conferences and things that we can go to work hands-on with models, or work with cadavers, which are people that have donated their body to science, and so we can work on those bodies to work on reconstruction. And I know there's people that I could, at this point in my career, have done a lot more for back in the beginning of my career. So In my state, there is still more burial. So most states are still more burial. Cremation is really more popular along the coastlines. You got to like Oregon and California and stuff. So yes, I would really like to know about African American bodies. I have no idea what that even means. What do you want to know about African American bodies? So yeah, I've had families yell at me. Not many. One woman yelled at me when her son died, and she wasn't yelling at me. She was just, I think, upset. And so I knew that. But I had a family yell at me when I was asking about payment because I wasn't the funeral director that worked with them. So I did look like I was coming in just to talk about the money, but I needed to speak to them about money. And so I caught them at a bad time. Yeah. Can a body be buried in the person's backyard? So, yes and no. It's a gray area. It depends on your township and your state and what the laws are. You can apply for a permit, but so like in Meyer, you have to have 1 acre that's designated for that burial. In addition to where your home sits, it's always on the title and the deed and things for your house. So every time that property is sold, it'll say, I don't know, I picture like there's a stamp that says dead body on it, and it's like stamps the title, the deed or whatever, which yes is not the case. But resale value, thinking of those things, and you may have homesteads that have been in your family for hundreds of years, and so it's, it may be good for you to bury on that ground because you know that that's going to be in your family for years and years and years. So thank you guys all for all the telling me how much you love my videos and things. I'm still just humbled that anybody watches anything I put out there. It's crazy to me. Thank you, Ted. Let's see. I'm trying to keep this around 30 minutes, so I'm going to do 1 or 2 more questions. How often do people come in and plan their own funerals? People do it all the time, every day, and at all different ages. 20, 30-year-olds come in, 90, 100-year-olds come in. So everybody at different phases come in and plan, and it may be just getting down biographical information, but it may be doing the whole shebang and funding and everything. So there's different options and different things you can do. A loved one dies. Yes, you can dress them. You can be as hands-on as you want to be when it comes to the funeral of your loved one. You just need to ask. Most people I don't think know that what are options, just like taking your loved one home and having a visitation at home or having them at home with you, in between visitation and service. That's an option. But if you don't ask, you don't know. How do I separate myself from work? It's hard because a lot of times it comes home with you, just kind of in your head and in your heart, and sometimes you have quiet nights. But I think it's that way with any work, even a telemarketer. You're going to have days where somebody is just rude to you and mean to you, and you just take it to heart. It's being able to release and not getting as connected to every family as you would initially think you're going to, or as much as you may in the beginning. So time, it's either going to make you or break you. You're either going to become too invested in every family that you can't release when you leave, or you're going to be able to balance it. I think about families, and I stay connected with some families after, and it depends on the family, it depends on the situation, and you find the balance over time. Do people want to crawl in the casket they buy? I've never had anybody ask to crawl in the casket, and I would tell them no, just because you're not supposed to reuse an interior once a body has been in it. So it probably just means a deceased body, but I just take it as let's not touch the inside, people. Let's not get inside. It's going to be for whoever it's meant to be for. So, prefer working as director or embalmer. It depends on the day. I kind of like going into work with my hair not done and mismatched pants and shirt and no makeup, or going right from, working out to go into embalm because I don't have to worry about anybody in the public seeing me. But I also love working with the families. I love working and caring for them and loving on them and helping them and making sure things go very smoothly for them. I also love that part. So it just depends on the day and the mood I'm in, I guess. If I'm feeling like a recluse and want to just stay down in the prep room. So, how bad do they smell? Bodies? Depends on the body. You know, the body decaying or decomposing has its own smell, but the gastric and the poop and pee and stuff, that all smells just as bad. So, can you make a badly decomposing body viewable? Yes, for the most part. Viewable for the family. They may not be great, but they can be good enough for the family to do a viewing with heavy cosmetics and things. At least they can view them to have a little goodbye. But because of smell and things, if that can't be controlled, then you can't have the open casket for the public with the smell. How does the PTA in school? Any weirdness? I'm not to that point. So my daughter's starting kindergarten next year. So no, I don't talk too much, only with like my close friends. And as I get more comfortable with friends, I talk a little more about what I do, or I kind of like that I'm not the stereotypical funeral director, and that I can say, hey, my mail lady actually the other day drove, she was like, hey, Kari, how are you? I said, hey, good, how are you? And she goes, can I just ask you what you do for a living? And I said, why? She said, you have some interesting mail. And because I do trade work, I get envelopes, I get checks from several different funeral homes in the mail. So she sees all these funeral home envelopes coming to our address, and she's like, what do you do? So she thought it was great to ask what I did and me to explain, and so it was kind of funny. If someone gets shot very bad, can they still have an open casket? I have seen some of the most amazing restorative art things where somebody had no head and they made a head, and everybody is not skilled that way. I like to think maybe I could do that. I've not attempted a restoration that large before. And so, how do you get a deal? So, there's a lot of things you can do, and there's a lot of restoration that can be done. I wish I could share pictures about those things, but I can't. It's only for our teaching purposes. But no, I don't ever want to own a funeral home, ever. Yes, Bobby Buttons, I would love to come to the UK, and if I do come, I'm going to totally have to plan a meet and greet or something and try and get together with some of my UK people. Is that your dad in the window? No, it must be my neighbor if he's peeking out, because that's my neighbor's house. So I'm going to do one last question before I have to sign off. Have you ever turned down a body? Never. I've never said no because we didn't want to care for the body. I have recommended a family use somewhere else for financial purposes that maybe they could not afford to pay at our place, and I knew that they could get maybe a lower rate somewhere else, and so I helped connect them to some place that they were more comfortable at, because in the end, you don't want this grief on top of this huge financial burden. It's always going to be a financial burden, yes, but I would rather somebody feel more comfortable at the end with, you know, the amount that they paid than being way over their head on top of the grief. So, oh my goodness, you left work for this. Bless your heart. That's crazy. Oh, I love it. So yeah, so I've never turned anyone down. I've helped people connect with the funeral home maybe they should be with. So, all right, I'm going to have to cut this off though. I try and keep my videos down to around 30 minutes here. I am going to respond to all the questions though that I didn't get to. Maybe I'll do another video responding to that. Have you ever embalmed African American? Yes, actually today I did. So yes. I will respond and get answers to all the rest of the videos. Who is that man on your roof? I have no idea. You must have seen my neighbor over on his house. So I will talk to you guys later. I thank you guys so much for support and encouragement and for sticking with me, and excuse I've been gone for a little while. We had 3 birthdays in our house in the last 2 weeks, plus Father's Day. Yesterday was my birthday, actually. It was a milestone birthday, so I'll let you guess what number birthday that was for me. My daughter said I was 14, so we'll give that to her. I don't think I'd want to go back to 14, but so thank you guys for support and encouragement and sticking with me. If I can figure out how to end this.